Welcome everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Which I hope is the last online event of the Democratic Odyssey before we close for summer. Definitely not the last event of the Democratic Odyssey, but certainly the last of the season. The reason why we wanted to have this event with all of you is because, as you know, um, we've presented the Citizen Charter in Vienna, but that Citizen Charter, which has been a collaborative effort that has happened throughout the traveling assembly that's moved from Athens to Florence and then Vienna, has perhaps not been seen by everyone that has been a member of the assembly. So this is the main reason we wanted to have this meeting with you, but also to understand all of us together what will be the follow-up of this particular project, but also the campaign we're all after, which is a permanent People's Assembly. This is just to frame this meeting in which several things would happen. And without making it too long, I'm going to give the word to Calypso for a brief welcome. Before that,
hello, dear friends of the Democratic Odyssey. We would like to invite you where we all started together. You remember in Athens, some of you, maybe not all of you, we started by flying in our imaginary to the closest sea or water flowing from where you are. And maybe now you can all imagine yourself, maybe close your eyes or be in this lovely scenery that we're sharing right now. And imagine that you're going maybe on the river next to you or on the sea next to you, and that you are part of a flotilla that has stopped where you are now, has taken a pause, but is embarked on a very, very long, endless voyage, a journey, because this journey is towards a beacon that is perhaps constantly receding and yet so bright. And it's the beacon of a good living together. It's a beacon of planting seeds where we stop. It's an idea that we share, an idea that we can do our thing, maybe a small thing, maybe one small seed, to try to make democracy live again, to make all of us part of a story. And this story, we have called it in our own way, a democratic odyssey, because an odyssey is a voyage which doesn't really have an end, that is constantly reinventing itself. And yet an odyssey that, while it is floating together, while we are on ships of companions and a crew, where we stop in every port, we seek to plant these seeds of mutual understanding and empathy and solidarity. And it's not always easy. There are those who trample on the seeds. There are also storms on the seas that we have embarked on. There are monsters, there are sirens that are trying to tempt us, thanks to their alluring promises. And we nevertheless persevere on this journey. This is what the Democratic Odyssey has been for us, an adventure which we hope we will all continue to live on and indeed to thrive on. So today in this meeting, we continue the journey and we continue to ask, as we go from island to island, from seas to seas together, How do we continue to plant the seeds of further democratic renewal? This is the spirit. Thank you for being in the flotilla together.
Thank you so much, Calypso, for that grounding. Indeed, how do we continue what has been happening so far? We wanted to show you the final trailer of the Odyssey across different assemblies before we start that conversation. So allow me to share this very nice video with you.
Okay. Mystery. The place and hide away. I count money every day. You see my vision's always night. It ain't ever day. You ain't never close to safe. One step into a real G. Demons in my spirit making choices for a mystery. The place and hide away. I count money every day. You see my vision's always night. It ain't ever day. You ain't never close to safe. One step into a real G. Demons in my spirit making choices for a
Thank you for watching. I hope it reminded you of very nice memories together. I want to introduce Teona for a brief presentation.
Thank you, Irene. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and a special welcome to our members. It's really great to see you all again. So just give me a second to share my screen. I hope you can see the screen, or not yet?
I don't.
Maybe.
I only see a black screen.
Okay, just a second. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. So as Irene announced, I'll share a short summary of the Democratic Odyssey cycle and our process so far in the past year. So first, as you all know, the Democratic Odyssey, and some of you are maybe joining us for the first time. So just to briefly repeat, the Democratic Odyssey is a crowdsourced, decentralized, and collaborative campaign that is developing a concept and a strategy to institutionalize a permanent People's Assembly and a participatory ecosystem in Europe. And here you can see our timeline, which shows all the events that we had in the past year. So the assembly was launched in Athens in September 2024, so almost a year ago. And members of the assembly in Athens were those that were randomly selected in many European countries, but not only in the EU. We also had some members from the Western Balkans countries. And then we had locally recruited members in Athens, those that were Greeks, but also non-Greeks, so members that live in Athens or in the Attica region, but that actually come from all over the world. And we also had alumni members, so those that have participated in similar deliberative processes before, and representatives of civil society organizations. So this was our structure in Athens. And then in each city that we visited, so Florence and Vienna, we had again the same composition plus additional members that are locally recruited in Florence and Fiesole and in Vienna. So this was the composition, and the number of members grew every time in each city, and in the end we had 300 members. So in Athens, the topic that our assembly members discussed was reflecting on your experience of recent crisis, what needs to change for Europeans to overcome future storms, and how can we, the people, help better steer the European ship. And the methodology for selecting this topic was just like the rest of our process, in accordance with the radical openness and radical transparency. And it was done in collaboration with the constituent network. So it was crowdsourced from the constituent network, which is a network of over 700 members that come from all walks of life. So practitioners, academics, representatives of media, academic institutions, random members, and then people who are interested in this process, etc. And this topic was selected in the spring of 2024. And then the idea was to continue narrowing down the topic as we continue with the process. And so in Athens, our members talked about the different crises which affected their lives. They exchanged their stories, fears, and hopes for the future. This first assembly moment was designed to bring our members together, to create a safe space for them to open up and to speak freely, and to analyze these crises that have affected them on a deeper level, which then set the stage for the rest of the process, which, as I said, was aimed at narrowing down the topic and ultimately reaching concrete proposals. After all the work that was done in Athens, and also during the online assembly moment that has taken place in November 2024, the Assembly adopted a more refined topic formulation, which was a citizens' agenda in times of crisis. How can we help steer the ship and become effective change makers? And so then our next in-person assembly moment was in Florence in February 2025. And during this moment, our members explored different trade-offs, which are real or perceived tensions between two or more options. In these very difficult conversations that our members had in Florence, they were trying to reconcile these contradictions and to identify compromises. And so during our assembly moment in Florence, the members also started drafting their recommendations on how citizens can become effective change makers and how can they contribute to the response on future crises of democracy. And then Vienna was the final port of this democratic Odyssey assembly cycle. During this closing moment, members finalized their recommendations and they created a citizens' charter, which my colleagues will present later this evening. And this charter is outlining 10 pathways to reimagine democratic participation. So this is one of the biggest outcomes of our assembly cycle so far. And the charter is now live and open for discussion. You can find it on our digital platform. We will share the link later here in the chat. And then another very important outcome of this Vienna assembly moment and of the entire pilot assembly is the Citizens' Council, which is composed of assembly members, and it has been established in order to work on ensuring appropriate follow-up to the recommendations that are contained in the charter, and also very importantly to contribute to the campaign for a permanent People's Assembly for Europe. So these members of this council will be working together with the crew to steer the ship and to coordinate the efforts of all assembly members in the coming period. And since our final assembly moment in Vienna, which happened in the end of May, some of the assembly members have already met informally in Athens and Florence and Vienna. And the Citizen Council has been meeting very regularly and setting up their structure and workflows, preparing for their next steps and next activities. But you will hear more about this from Jamila and Andre later, our council members. The democratic seeds that we've been planting are already progressing, which we can see from all of these examples. And this is definitely not the end of the democratic odyssey, but it is only the beginning of a new chapter. So thank you all for being part of this journey. And I really hope that you will continue to stay involved and that you will continue advocating for this permanent People's Assembly. And yeah, thank you all very much, and thanks Bjarne for a very nice presentation as well.
Thank you, Teona. Thank you so much. We also wanted to, I mean, as part of this cycle of assemblies, obviously we will jump into evaluation. And as you know, observers have been present throughout the different assembly moments, understanding and analyzing how the assembly has functioned in deliberative terms. But I firstly wanted to give the word to Andrea from the European University Institute, who's also working on the part of analysis and lessons learned from this assembly cycle. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Irene. In fact, we're all in this together, as it were. We're all drawing lessons. Perhaps I can actually share a link to the constituent network that Teona's already briefly introduced, which is a space where we can all do this. And so I would perhaps say that in this DO journey, as Teona was also just saying, we have long discussed the implication of crisis on democracy and the impact that democratic processes can have on crisis, anticipating them, avoiding them, facing them if they really arrive. So we now have a charter, and that speaks to how should we democratize crisis. And we are also here, obviously, to celebrate that. And I say this with a sense of pride for all that we have all collectively done, but also to ask what we can do concretely to make this a success story. So that the results are tangible and the work we have all done is visible. And of course, the newly born Citizen Council is key to this story. So in this section of the conversation for today, we want to talk about the lessons we have learned really as a collection of entities almost, right? So the lessons learned by us as an organizing committee, by us as assembly members, by us as observers and evaluators, by us as broader community that has mobilized also across borders and on the digital platform. So the public, the general public. So on the one hand, this is also a key moment, one could say really, to discuss crisis management and how to make it more democratic, right? If not now, when? Looking at the news. So one of the first lessons is indeed that with conflict at our borders, criticisms of political double standards reaching us from really across the globe, and also the international human rights regime being at risk, it becomes important, or even more important, all the work that the Assembly has done. And it speaks also as a lesson to the salience of a topic that was selected before the Assembly recruitment started by the Constituent Network in a crowdsourcing fashion. So in fact, after that, our multiple feedback sessions with analysts have also fed the assembly process with a great variety of inputs regarding how crises are generally handled and also the type of crisis. The work of the Charter, as it were, is also now to ensure that its general principles can apply to both slow and fast-burning crises, but also the high-intensity and low-intensity ones. So it's almost a 2x2 matrix. And simultaneously, this is also exactly the moment where the traditional instincts of electoral democracy are to really represent the will of the people and for governments to act autonomously in the wake of crisis. So the first lesson that we draw is the relevance of the output of this assembly, the Charter, and how does it address both logics, which is one is of opening up the black box, the other is of taking quick and hopefully effective decisions that represent the majority of Europeans in this case. So the answer really is twofold. One, certainly we want to understand and talk about how do we understand collectively the salience of discussing what a healthy, vibrant democracy should look like. The Charter talks about this. We have talked about this. And particularly when democracy is struggling in the various shapes it takes across the continent and beyond. So I remember, for example, vividly, there was a contribution on digital platform in one of the many public debates we have set up, which was saying our democracies are not only fragile, they're almost non-existent. So we're also talking about changing the narrative about how much we can do to contribute from the individual to the collective level. And this is a lesson that we've drawn, which is it's possible to do it. For us, this really means contributing to drawing lessons from this year's pilot and consolidating a vision for a permanent People's Assembly for Europe, like the video Irene kindly showed was also saying. So it's an assembly that continues to contextualize in the broader political landscape all that was done by the 300 assembly members and now by the 50 plus members in the Citizen Council. And the second point is, therefore, demonstrating how useful such an assembly can be, where to become permanent and also to be empowered to deliberate on key political decisions, because crises entail political decisions. So perhaps I can talk about two specific types of lessons we have drawn and feedback we have received. Examples, for example, from the constituent network, which is, again, as Teona was saying, this community of people from all walks of life, which also include, by the way, alumni citizens. And also now that the pilot is over, all of the assembly members are also invited to join the constituent network. But we have received, for example, contributions on the substance very recently, a couple of weeks ago, where we were told that the Charter should be really crucial at the front line of the push for a permanent People's Assembly for Europe. And the community has also fleshed out how should we do it. And so will, of course, the Council, right? So this is the first lesson drawn, which is, it's not just about organizing the pilot, but very crucially now talking about how do we do follow up. But also contributions about the processes and tools, right? So, for example, the Constituent Network very practically suggested to us and reinforced our own ideas as to how relevant a public hearing in the European Parliament would be, also as a way of bringing the Council in dialogue with the institutions for follow-up. But also we received lessons and feedback from the platform, for example, on the substance again, where the charters, there's a charter pathway which has a title which is "If People Relocate, Democracy Must Follow," which really is concerned with the question of migration and there's a reference to strengthening local services. And there we have observed how actually there's resonance in the wider public on the platform with contributions about the fact that we should, for example, create a fund at EU level where every state has to pay the welfare of asylum seekers across borders. So there's a sort of joint fund, right? So there's a space on the digital platform where the deliberative output, the knowledge production of the assembly meets with the opinions in the public. But also there are also feedback that we've received through the platform on the processes and tools again, right? For example, there's the Charter's next steps. In each of the pathways, there's a section that's dedicated to next steps. And one, which is the one about not everything has been invented yet, that is the title of the pathway, which calls for a permanent People's Assembly. And there's many contributions there that echo and suggest ways in which we could do it. So perhaps these are some of the ways in which we think about the lessons drawn, the methodology we have deployed, and how it speaks to the salience of the Charter, of the Council, and all of the work that we will do in the coming months, continuing this sort of journey that Calypso, sort of framed at the beginning, where we learn lessons. But perhaps also Calypso would like to come in, and I'd like to give her the floor directly, maybe Irene, if that's okay, so that we draw lessons also from evaluation, because we also have official evaluators which have given us feedback throughout the whole process, all the way through to now, and hopefully in the coming months also.
Wonderful. Actually, we really want to hear from you, and I'm super excited that a number of members of the Citizen Council are with us. So I would like to encourage everyone to put in the chat, what as members of the Assembly, what lessons have you drawn? So please feel free. There will be a moment for Q&A in a minute, but feel free to contribute there. And I just want to share 3 points that we've heard to build on what Irene and Andrea just said. above all, that what we have all been embarked in this journey is an experiment. And as with any experiment, it has trial and errors. So when we are asked, oh, but what is so new? What is so different about this? Well, it is because it was a collective experiment. It was an experiment both in the way in which we were a moving assembly, an itinerant assembly, picking you in, some of you in different cities with ambassadors and all of that, with a composition of citizens from beyond Europe, as well as from around Europe, as well as the cities. The European Commission and European institutions don't do it that way. The second way in which this was so different from any of the assemblies we see, that they do exist and many are wonderful, but we were different, not only because we were itinerant, but the method we used, where we mixed from super high-tech AI to civic arts and everything in between, and picking from the best ways of doing deliberation, but also sometimes there were frustrations, and we heard about that too, where it wasn't always easy to take advantage of the time we had and to include everyone's viewpoint. So let's reflect on that, as we should reflect on how well or not well the itinerant assembly happened. And then thirdly, so we had the who, traveling, many people. Then secondly, we had the how, the method. And thirdly, let's reflect together now and in the digital platform on the third dimension, the why, the fact that we were an assembly that wasn't just an end in itself, however wonderful the end product, the charter, has been, but it is an assembly leading to a campaign, leading to an ideal, leading to a beacon of a permanent citizen assembly, yes, of planting the seeds of other democratic innovations in the cities that we visit, as well as beyond. And finally, in kind of inventing new ways of doing democracy. So that's why we continue to be together. That's why we have a citizen council, because the adventure and the journey goes on, as I said earlier. So that's all I wanted to say right now, but I'd like to encourage everybody to kind of build on these points in the chat, and we can collect them, and we hope that you will also contribute them in the digital platform.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Calypso and Andrea, for taking the time to reflect on this journey we did together. I would like to move forward, I would say, from looking back to looking forward. One of the most tangible outcomes of our work together has been the Citizen Charter. And this Citizen Charter is in a way a shared expression of the values across the different assemblies, but also like the priorities and different proposals that people that have participated in this experiment have pushed forward. Hopefully, I invite you to give us a bit of a summary moment of this important charter. And before entering in the presentation, there's something I wanted to say, and also like something that probably the Citizen Council afterwards will mention. The Citizen Charter is the final product of the Traveling Assembly, but we're also like very open to explore different ways of implementing it and putting it together. Ophelie.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. So my name is Ophelie. I'm part of the crew of the Democratic Odyssey, and I will share my screen now to present to you the outcome that is the Citizens' Charter. So sharing the screen, and hopefully you can see what is going on. Okay. So I don't see you, so if you need to speak to me, you will have to open the mic. Thank you very much. So the Citizens' Charter is the result, obviously, of this long process and innovative process that's been the Democratic Odyssey. The Charter represents the final product of this journey so far, and it reflects on the deliberations that took place throughout the assemblies, both in person and online. It's a collection of the Assembly members' own recommendations on citizens' involvement in crisis management, because that was our starting point, crisis management. And it's a bold, citizens-authored roadmap consisting of those 10 key pathways for a democratic renewal and a collective resilience. In other words, this is the final product of what has been going on up until this point of the democratic Odyssey, which is only the first phase, of course, of this journey. So the aims of the Charter are navigating through turbulent times and building democratic resilience so that we are stronger, learning from the past to better prepare for those future crises that will hit at some point, and to avoid them where possible and address them where necessary, and involving citizens, everyone living in Europe, so citizens in the broad sense of the term, so also residents of Europe, in decisions that impact your lives, in reimagining a democratic participation for that. So the journey went from Athens to Florence and then to Vienna. In Athens, the focus was on change. And here's a quote from someone who was a member of the Athens Assembly. "Politicians give the impression that they listen, but this is just marketing." Perhaps some of you relate to that quote. We moved to Florence, we navigated to Florence, and here Florence was all about the tensions. Trusting the leaders, trusting our representative democracy versus accountability from that representation. And eventually we landed in Vienna, and Vienna was all about the steps. So nothing about us without us. How do we activate and how do we put ourselves in motion and in action? So I want to share here a QR code. So I invite you to either, and that's the best way, to scan this QR code with your smartphone. If you have a smartphone, if it's quite close to you, I invite you to scan this QR code and it will land you on something called Mentimeter. If you do not have a smartphone, my colleagues will share in the chat right now the link to this Mentimeter, so you can access either via the QR code or via the link. I ask you to have both things open. So to have this presentation that I will keep on having on one screen, for instance, your computer, if you can, and on your phone or on a tab of your phone, the Mentimeter. So I give you a little bit of time to either scan the QR code or click on the link in the chat to the Mentimeter. And that Mentimeter will allow you to react to the 10 pathways of the Charter. Why doing it simultaneously? Because, well, it would be a bit too much to expect from you that you would remember each of the pathways and to react to them afterwards. So we're going to try and do this simultaneously. I will trust you with the pace that you want to keep on the Mentimeter, and I will focus on presenting the pathways on this presentation. I will start going through the different pathways. Again, you have the link in the chat if need be. All right, so going back on this, so here we are. Our first pathway is being involved is also our responsibility as citizens. Active citizenship cannot be coerced. It must become a widely acknowledged right. Participation should not be limited to elections or occasional consultations like referendums. Emergencies should not be a pretext for a few decision makers to ignore the citizens. Background and nationality status should not be an exclusionary criteria. And authorities should be empowered by civil society and citizens. Use us as democratic turbo batteries, was said. Yes, please. No? Okay. Yeah, so that was the first pathway. So now I invite you to get on the Mentimeter, either again on your phone, through the QR code or the link, and to scale this first pathway. The scale is meant to be guiding the Citizens' Council that will speak right after this, and to help them to understand how well prepared, how well achieved we are in those pathways. So basically, the lower the grade, so number 1, the more it means that the pathway needs to be perfected in a way and be more ready to be presented to the world. If you put the maximum grade, which I believe is 5, it means that you consider that this principle is ready to be shared with the world. This is not about your personal opinion about the content of it. It's about how you think this is understandable and presentable. All right, I'll keep going. Number 2, our money, our choice. The spending of public money should be decided with the participation of the people. Participatory budgeting across Europe at all levels, including whether to spend or to tax. Budgets must be transparently posted on the web and accessible to all people. And ensure that everyone is taken into account, limit the influence of special interests, meaning lobbies, mobilize collective intelligence, cultivate learning, and build trust. That was the second pathway. You can give your grading on the readiness of this pathway on the Mentimeter. Number 3, nothing about us without us. The outbreak of a crisis should never be an excuse for a powerful elite to grab power or silence opposition. There must always be ways for people to participate, assemble, protest, imagine innovative ways to engage in vital decisions and make themselves heard. Only in these ways can problems be highlighted, bad policies be corrected, and good policies adopted. Moving on to number 4, it's about educate to anticipate, so all about education. Commitment to maximize democratic competence for all at all ages in ways that allow intelligent and empathetic conversations across countries and languages. Learning so we can all be empowered in advance to be prepared to think and act during crisis. Empathy can be learned and practiced collectively in various public spaces and moments. Civic education for future thinking holds the promise of a European collective intelligence. That was number 4. Feel free to react to that pathway on the Mentimeter. Number 5, collectivity and self-organization are our power. Whether in acute or permanent crisis, people increasingly come together to take their destiny in their hands. Autonomous communities are precious and need to be empowered. For example, energy community, feminist and intergenerational housing collectives, farmer-consumer cooperatives. But we must encourage those communities to not only be autonomous, but also democratic, accessible, connected, and coordinated between themselves and across borders, so to not repeat patterns of oppression. That was number 5.
Sorry, I'm just stepping in because there's comments in the chat about the Mentimeter, because we're on we've stopped at the first 3 slides, i.e. the first 3 questions. So they were
Thanks
asking
for letting me know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe I might be able to do that. Let's see. Is this unblocked?
Yes, it's working now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Great. You let me know if anything is blocking more.
Thank you.
Yep. Wonderful. All right. So we did 5 pathways. So we have 5 remaining. So moving on to number 6. If people relocate, democracy must follow. Internal mobility of people in the EU is a human right and at the heart of the EU identity, while also accounting for people who do not relocate. All levels of governance must counter structural discrimination of people without citizenship of the country of residency and guarantee democratic participation to all, including migrants, refugees, asylum seekers, expats, or stateless individuals. Regulations, policies, and infrastructures must be implemented locally for them to achieve equal participation in social and political life. So if you participate in some aspects of society, you should be able to participate in all, is kind of the logic behind this. Feel free to react to that proposal, that pathway, number 6. Number 7, transparency is non-negotiable. If it affects us, we deserve to understand it. Complexity is no obstacle. Transparency is a prerequisite for participation.
You're not working. It's only the first 3. Thank you.
On the Mentimeter.
Yeah, you would need to change another slide now.
All right. Mm-hmm. Is this working like that?
It did just a second ago.
And I was
Yeah,
locked
as you
again.
presented this last slide, I think. Yeah.
The thing is that I can't do the PowerPoint and this at the same time.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you add me to?
Let me see.
Okay.
I don't know. No.
Okay.
No, sorry, it doesn't work.
Let me share the PowerPoint then.
Yep. Sorry, and thank you for your patience. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you very much. So, now the Mentimeter should be going. Let me know if it's not the case. Okay, so we are back on the Charta. So we have number 7. Did I finish number 7? I'm lost now. No. Okay. Transparency is non-negotiable. If it affects us, we deserve to understand it, and complexity is no obstacle. Transparency is a prerequisite for participation, trust, and accountability, and therefore of democracy. The science, open data, and arguments behind decisions must be publicly available. And when politicians make decisions that affect all of us, these should be widely debated with citizens within and across countries. Number 8, care is at the heart of democracy. Care is empathy, communication, equality, and action. Act of giving and receiving between people, from people to institutions, and from institutions back to the people. Act to fulfill the needs of others starts with listening to each other and be listened, just like democracy starts with caring for and about each other. Care culture, emotional awareness, and bodily experience must be at the heart of a resilient and healthy democracy. That was number 8. Number 9, harness technology, unleash collective intelligence. Technology can be antisocial and manipulative if it is controlled exclusively by private interests and if it fails to pay attention to the many biases embedded in datasets and algorithms, especially artificial intelligence. But if it is democratized, it can be a powerful tool for our collective intelligence and contribute to countering extremisms. Grassroots grown platforms embodying democratic design and operating standards should be encouraged and resourced. Number 10, not everything has been invented yet. This Citizens' Charter lays the foundation for a permanent People's Assembly for Europe of randomly selected citizens. The EU and public authorities should open the space for the creation of such a standing body, meaning a permanent Citizens' Assembly. It would be itinerant with membership by rotation. It would be regularly convened by the members themselves while locally embedded and serve as a bridge between the EU institutions and the broader public. That was the last pathway of the Citizens' Charter, which essentially embeds the result of your hard work. I hope the Mentimeter worked. I think it did. Yes. Great. So thank you so much for reacting to those pathways. And again, this is about reacting in a way to guide the Citizens' Council. We want to make sure that we respect the process that's been going on. Some members of the Democratic Odyssey participated only in a part of it, only Athens, or only an online assembly, Florence or Vienna. And so we don't want to encourage the Citizens' Council to reform everything, because of course that would just be erasing the whole process of the assembly. But we want to make sure that we are also being able to help the Citizens' Council to guide the priorities of getting a very final Citizens' Charter. So I know we're a bit strict with time. I don't know, Irene, how do you want to proceed? Because I see a hand raised.
I have a quick question. What happened between the last Citizen Assembly and this wording? Because I cannot recognize what we did with what was now presented. Thank you.
So I believe that this is a reflection of the outcomes from Vienna. There's something that might have been misleading, which is that in the final presentation on the Sunday in Vienna, it was said that what was on the screen was the final version, but it was not. So that might be why. This version incorporates all of what was recommended and said during the working groups in Vienna as well.
Sorry, perhaps I could be a bit more precise, Gabriela. So as you can see on the digital platform, every principle, the 10 principles, has the principles that were mostly worked out upstream of Vienna. And then there was the next steps. There was also a paragraph on Athens and Florence under the principle. And then under the principle, there is next step. How do we concretely go about making this happen? And mostly the conversations in Vienna were about next steps. So in these slides, you only see the principle. You don't see the details of how to get there. To find that, which is really, really what you worked on in Vienna, you have to go to the digital platform, just to be really clear about all these different building blocks.
Thank you, but I'm sorry, that is also not the case. It was just what we had arrived at in Vienna was different from what you arrive now, and I was just interested in how you get there. But that's okay.
It wasn't in the slides, just to be clear. The Vienna, each group, it's on the digital platform. The specific.
We reworked. We reworked the main points that you now presented, but they were different. And I thought it is a consecutive process. It started in Athens, it was worked on in Florence, it was worked on in Vienna, and then I was expecting that it would say a little bit more than technology is nice if handled well, which is what it now says. That's a rather banal statement, I find, and we were much more specific. So who was the group who now worked on that benign sentence that will now be in the Charta?
Perhaps I can jump in just to say that I'm not sure we're going to be able to resolve the question as you pose it now, because it entails a series of conversations in terms of and sequencing of actions. What I can speak to is perhaps the spaces where this can take place. And certainly the council is the body precisely mandated to following up to the charter as it is presented on the platform. And as you can see on the platform, it is actually a correction. What was presented on the platform was what was coming out of the groups in Vienna. So what was in the live streaming there was actually so correct. So perhaps what's on the platform, you might want to engage in a conversation with the council directly, right? Because this is something that we have done differently, in fact, from other. The assembly members have direct contact with one another. The assembly members have a space, private space on a digital platform where you can connect independently, and you can open debates as to tracing also all that's happened and making sure that there is consistency, as you say, which is of course this process transparency and consistency, and surely also connecting with the council, which is the independent body, as it were, that is mandated also with ensuring this follow-up. And so we can have a conversation as organizing team and the council and making sure that everything that you say, it is addressed. Although I would be surprised that it would be different from what Calypso was saying, where there's the next steps clearly fleshed out in Vienna and everything else coming from the before, i.e. the work of the drafting committee that worked between Florence and Vienna. But I would tend to say, also conscious of time, that that's perhaps the best way to address this. And of course, also the digital platform itself. So the charter has the possibility to add comments. So you might also want to speak to prior conversations that are not in the final statement as discussed in Vienna, but perhaps by the subgroups in Vienna, but perhaps spoke to something that resonated with you from before.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your vigilance, Gabriela. I see another hand raised. Unfortunately, we are quite rushed with time, so I want to make sure that we give the floor to the representatives of the Citizens Council who are with us, Jamila and Andrei, so that they can explain to you what is the role of the Citizens Council and how you can maybe interact also with the Citizens Council. So I don't know, between Jamila and Andrei, who would like to take the floor?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you hear me? Yeah, I will take the floor very briefly, just to mention the spirit where we are. So with this Citizens Council, citizens wish to remind to all the stakeholders at all levels, local, national, European, international, that citizens' voice matter. Citizens are not spectators, speak actor, but speak acting. It's very important. And to remind that all citizens with various background, age, gender, spirit, etc., coming from everywhere in the world and living somewhere in Europe, belonging to the European polis in the meaning of the Greek word, we join this amazing adventure, democratic Odyssey, to share our dreams, hope, fears, idea, imagination, to impulse the European democracy in a special context in various crises. After a road of 3 steps assembly, as you mentioned already, Athens, Firenze, and Vienna, around 53 citizens joined the council, the Citizen Council. And we still continue to be united in our diversity as the motto of the EU. motivated to give a new soul to the European Union in a beautiful spirit of creativity, happiness, love, and above all, responsibility, as we did for our transnational assembly from Democratic Odyssey. Of course, we endorse totally the Charter. Denmark has just taken for 6 months the presidency of the EU Council. Its motto is a strong Europe in a changing world. In this 6 months and all the time after, Europe couldn't be strong in this changing world without its citizens and their concrete involvement and participation. I just wanted to remind this. Thank you all for your kind support. And I give the floor to Andrzej. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamila. So as mentioned, we have the task to build a citizen council and promote the charter and everything what's going on with that. So which means building up such a council is not an easy task, as we know that, as we have seen it through the process, and especially if we're going through all the 300 people that joined us during this process and the 53 that are left. So as mentioned, we have 53 members in that council that agreed to work together and bringing the council into life. So the first four steps that we're going is building up a vision for the council, outlining and creating a decision-making process, finding a name that is easily recognized and keeping people attached to the project, and doing charter fine-tuning, including promotion for that. So fine-tuning the charter and lining out the lobbying process for the charter is a quite good task and a very, very important task. As we've seen in the Mentimeter, there are not everyone is on that the charter is already finished for promoting, so that will be fine-tuned as fast as possible, and we'll lining out a lobbying process for the charter and doing the promotion for that. Additionally, we will be building up a permanent citizen assembly, or at least do the outline for that, by learning from already existing processes. There are many permanent citizen assemblies in Europe and all over the world that from where we can learn how to build that, how to work there, and how we can really bring something to life and keep it running. And a far more vision on that one would be building up an European institution for citizen assemblies that can guide people from all the countries in Europe, and probably also from the world, how to build up a good citizen process and a citizen assembly that is successful. So what we need from the institutions and from the member states are very, very easy and very fast shown, which means listen to the council, support the council members and the subgroups in getting things to the right people, train the council members, and make sure that the council members get a fair reward on their work, not only a blunt thank you. With all that said, thanks to the European Commission for funding the Democratic Odyssey, the team of the Democratic Odyssey for the organization and guidance during the Odyssey, the participants for their contribution, and the council members for their current and upcoming work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ondrej. Is it right for me to say, or perhaps you can say to members of the assembly here that may want to participate in the Citizen Council a way of doing it? I believe
Yes,
you have WhatsApp groups and...
Yep. Okay. We have already 2 WhatsApp groups, at least maybe probably more. We have the General Citizen Council WhatsApp group that we can share of that. For the Vienna, for the people living in Vienna, we have also already a Viennese group also for certain things for meeting and for working together locally. I think in Athens there should be also one. I think was it you, Theo, to wanted to build up, or somebody else who wanted to build up in Athens, and I think there was also a word that also in Florence there should be a local group, and from that on we'll bring everything together in the major in the main Democratic Odyssey WhatsApp group.
Great. Thank you so much. So if anybody is interested in general, we can pass you the contacts as well through the democraticodyssey@gmail.com. And obviously we went a bit over time. But before finishing, there's two very important things that we have to do. The first one is for you to know what is coming ahead of this. On our side, on the organizational team side, what is happening is, first of all, we are in the middle of a preparation for a hybrid event that ideally will take place in the European Parliament. Is yet to be confirmed, but we have our hopes high that this can happen. And this event will take place in mid-October. In this event, we will present the working charter, also with the different feedback and processes from the Citizens Council to members of the European Parliament and Commission, as well as different experts and academics that will be present in the room. Also, we would like to invite some members of the Citizen Council to be there in that event. It is our public event of the year. And then there's also some reports that will be done for us to keep spreading the word of what has happened. We are planning to publish, of course, a general report of the whole assembly on its implementation, and a manual, or rather guidelines, on how to organize transnational citizen assemblies, together with a blue book on the design of, or what is the possible political design of that permanent People's Assembly. So this is all upcoming in the next months. And we'll be in contact with you, also sending you the information. And last but not least, I said that there were two very important things to say. The first one was that, the second one is that I want to invite you all right now to turn on your camera. Even if you are in your pajamas, it doesn't matter. Turn on your camera. Let's have a last screenshot together before the summer, please. Yes, I see some faces. Some of them look happy, so that makes me feel happy. Hey, hello everyone. So, there's even more people entering right now in the room, so it's great so that they are not missing the screenshot. And feel free to also do the screenshot yourselves and put the best face, because here it comes. Yes, okay. It's a weird thing not having a camera in front of you, but lovely. Again, thank you so much. We'll be in contact with you also with the recording of this meeting, and I truly wish you a lovely summertime.
Thank you very much.
You too, Irene.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
You too. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.